Hello, my name is Aparna Banerjee and I am the Senior Manager for Consulting and Training at Community Business. It is my pleasure to welcome you today to this webinar, which is part of our Work-Life Harmony Live Day program sponsored by Northern Trust. In this webinar entitled Work-Life Harmony, Taking Control and the Art of Saying No, we are delighted to introduce Ruchi Parekh. Ruchi is an associate certified coach and a lawyer. She helps high potential professionals build emotional resilience and a positive mindset to get to the next level in their lives, personally and professionally. Ruchi has worked with leaders in various industries, including financial services, legal, media, technology, and human resources. Ruchi was also featured in the Asian Money Guide amongst the 50 Power Women of Asia in 2018. Ruchi, thank you for joining us today. It would be great to start off by hearing about yourself, your experience, and interest in work-life harmony.
Thank you so much, Aparna. It's a pleasure being here. To begin my introduction, let me first just get my slide deck on so I can start with that. Just give me a second. Well, here we go. Welcome to my webinar, Work-Life Harmony, Taking Control and the Art of Saying No. I'm sharing a bit about myself. I'm an executive and a life coach. I'm certified by the International Coach Federation and I'm associate certified coach by them. I'm also a lawyer by training, having practiced in Hong Kong and India. My focus is on making clients feel empowered and accomplished while achieving their goals. My coaching style is result-oriented, and I like to call myself a journaling junkie. You'll know more about that as we go on. So let's start without further ado. And the focus for today's webinar is on the following. I'm going to be talking about work-life balance versus work-life harmony, 8 steps to achieving work-life harmony, why is it hard to say no, the importance and benefits of saying no, the consequences of always saying yes, learning how to be assertive, and finally, I will be sharing with you some practical strategies to try out immediately. So let's begin. Now, I want to start with the difference between work-life balance versus work-life harmony. In my humble opinion, I don't think there is any such thing as work-life balance. Because work and life are not separate from each other, they are intertwined. And the basic concept of work-life balance speaks that it says that our life is like a neatly divisible pie that can be split as we wish. Life simply is not like that. Life is always intertwined into different things. It's not even a question of balance, it's more a question of control. And balance, as we all know, is not fixed. It's in a state of constant flux. That's why I believe that work and life instead are like layers on top of each other, having different levels of importance on a regular basis. When we try to achieve work-life balance, we try to be very efficient. We're trying to take into account every small thing, being organized, being totally getting everything in place. But what we can't take into account are the interferences and the disturbances that get thrown our way by life. And hence, this so-called balance gets thrown off balance. Instead of forcing this apart, we'd rather celebrate the overlap of work and life. It will not only help us be at peace, but help us lead a more fulfilled life. So we should rather really not have to choose one over the other, rather work on the harmony, knowing fully well that it will change on a regular basis. Your right balance or harmony for you today will be different tomorrow. It will be different when you are an employee or when you become an executive. It will be different when you are single or when you are married. Hence, instead of striving for work-life balance, it would be much happier, fulfilled life if you can strive for work-life harmony. And to help you achieve this work-life harmony, I would like to share 8 steps that will help you. Let's begin. My first step on achieving work-life harmony is to stop aiming for perfection. We need to start getting realistic in our life. The definition of perfection or perfect for somebody else is very different for you, and rather it should be different for you. If you base your perfect life on somebody else's perfect life, you're only going to be in for disappointment and disaster. So it's rather you define or make your own definition of perfection and live with that. Be realistic on what your aims and goals in life are rather than basing it on somebody else's. Step 2 is focus on your strengths. You are strong in certain things, and the things you are not so good at, let go, delegate. It is not possible or important for you to do everything. There will be no harmony in your life if you're trying to run like a headless chicken do all the stuff in your life. The third step is focus on your health. We are so busy finishing deadlines, working towards them, that we completely forget to take care of the most important aspect of us, our health. Exercising and giving focus to your health should be made like a ritual. It's very easy to say that I don't have time for an exercise because I have to leave for work at 7 a.m. I have a meeting at 7 p.m. But if you give that little priority to your health, a healthy body will be a healthy mind, making you more efficient and getting. Step 4 is prioritizing your time. Don't we all love making to-do lists? Well, you need to now prioritize the stuff on that to-do list. It's so important to focus on the important stuff rather than trying to get everything done. You are never going to finish it. Step 5 is ensuring me time. Well, this also refers to self-care. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And if you want a nice, harmonized life, life harmony, you need to ensure that you're taking care of yourself first. And my 6th step is learning to say no, which I am going to go into way deeper as we go along, but it is the key to achieving work-life harmony. Step 7 is unplugging. Well, technology has taken over our life, but what we forget is that technology has an off button. We, however, forget to switch off our own buttons. You need to take time out. You need to try and unplug. You can start with baby steps. You can shut down your computer in the nights to begin with. Another baby step would be keeping your phone away when you sleep. Constantly being available and being on the game 24/7 is not going to help you. It is only going to lead to burnout. So remember to unplug. And finally, take regular breaks. When I mean regular breaks, I don't mean going on a holiday once in a few months. I mean regular breaks in your day. When you're at work, it's important to take a few minutes, or 30 minutes is all, you don't only have to take that time out for lunch. You need to take a few minutes off after every few hours to recharge yourself. You can even do something as simple as getting up from your desk, taking a short walk, coming back and restarting. That is called a break as well. Well, that's about it for my 8 steps on achieving work-life harmony. Let's get to the next part of the webinar, which is on learning how to say no. For that, we first need to understand, why is it so hard to say no? Well, as much as we can believe that we are great people, we can stand up for ourselves, most of us, and research says a big number of people find it very hard to say no. Let's understand why. Well, for starters, you are worried that you will offend the person, especially where there's a superior or a leader or a boss involved. Saying no to him or her may feel or sound like you're going to offend them. Another reason is fear has been seen as too aggressive. Well, this is a very tricky one, and I'm going to be talking about it more as we proceed. Another reason people find it so hard to say no is societal norms. We have been taught, especially as in our Asian culture, to usually say yes when we've been asked for something, especially when it's from someone who's older, someone who's not only older in age, but also in hierarchy. We want to prove our worth, and we feel that by saying no, we will not be able to prove our worth. We want to keep everybody happy. Isn't that what we are all here for? Making the world and its neighbors happy? And finally, we find it hard to say no because of fear of conflict. Well, you need to know now the importance and the benefits of saying no. We have understood why we find it hard, but despite that, it's important to understand why you need to say no. Well, to begin with, it is a very important life skill, and it applies to all areas of your life. It's not only important to learn to say no in your personal life. Well, you need to learn to say it at your workplace as well. It stops you from becoming a doormat for other people. Think about it. If you're only going to say yes to anything and everything somebody asks of you, won't it be so easy for them to just believe that you're only there for serving them? Thirdly, it commands respect from others. When you begin to say no, it shows that you respect yourself. When you respect yourself, you will get the respect of others. It all begins with you. Fourthly, it helps you establish clearly defined boundaries for yourself. The minute you stand up for yourself and decide that this is how much you will accept, beyond that it's a no, those boundaries will be respected by others as well. Fifthly, it frees up your time over it, making more time for opportunities. Can you imagine the time you will free up to make time for your own goals, your dreams, your targets? When you're busy saying yes to everybody, there's no time for yourself. Saying no is going to free up your time. Sixth reason is by prioritizing your needs, you create a sense of self-confidence that you're looking after yourself. It is actually a very subconscious thing that happens when you begin to stand up for yourself. When you begin to say no, you build confidence in yourself because you have stood yourself. Finally, being assertive in many instances is actually better for the other person who you are saying the no to, because they then have clarity about your likes and dislikes. Let me give you a very simple, basic example for this. You have been asked if you are keen to participate in something. And because you believe that saying yes is always going to make everybody's life easier, you just go ahead and say, okay, I'm on for it. But the participation is for a group exercise, maybe of going ahead and going to some kind of a country or some kind of a place that you're not comfortable with. And your people or your team or the person who asked you had no idea about your life. Maybe your health gets affected if you go to a very cold area and the country they're going to is freezing cold. They had no clue about it, and because you did not say no, nobody knew about it, and only person suffering is you. So it's better for them as well as you if you could voice your opinion, voice yourself and say, no, I'd rather stay back. Now let's understand the consequences of always saying yes. Well, the key consequence that comes out of saying yes always is low self-confidence and self-esteem. You're so worried that someone may get offended and not agree with you that you just say yes. It ends up you questioning yourself, leading to low confidence and low self-esteem. That leads to resentment. When you're constantly saying yes, even if you want to say no, subconsciously it leads to building resentment within you, because you just wonder, why can't this person understand and not ask me this thing? without realizing that the responsibility for saying no is yours. A person is going to ask you whether you like it or not. Where if you cannot do it, it is your job and your duty to say no. You end up risking failure when you're only saying yes to everybody. Where is the time for yourself? Where is the time to build your career, to build your life, to go on the path that you had planned and decided for yourself? Lack of respect. Not only do you end up losing respect for yourself in your own eyes, but it ends up, the lack of respect for in others' eyes for you as well. You end up feeling exploited and unappreciated, also obligated. You just don't know how to say no, so you just keep saying yes, and that leads to feeling, you feel exploited. You wonder why the other person keeps asking you. Well, because you don't say no and the person needs help. It affects your physical and mental health. You not only lose your confidence, affecting your mental health, but your physical health, when that suffers, it is actually a manifestation of your mental health not being looked after. When you're overworked, you can get exhausted. You can get so tired that you could get, your immunity drops. You could catch the flu. You could get sick. It's just a no-win situation, always saying yes. Well, the reason I'm talking about how to be assertive, because with my research, I realized to be able to say no is such an important aspect of somebody's life, but most human beings mistake or rather misunderstand the meaning of assertive with aggressive, and hence they end up not standing up for themselves because they feel they will be seen as very aggressive. That is why I believe it's very important to understand and learn the meaning of assertive, hence how to be assertive. Let me share with you. Well, assertive is not the same as aggressive. Assertiveness is a way to get your needs met without offending others. It is so powerful and no one is hurt. That's the best part about it. It doesn't mean that people will not reject your newfound assertiveness at first, but if they do, they'll eventually respect you. Because real assertiveness involves respect for yourself and for others. It basically means standing up for yourself while being respectful. Assertiveness is a communication skill that can reduce conflict, build self-confidence, and improve relationships. It sounds quite easy, but it's not as easy to implement if you don't understand the true aspects of being assertive. So let me explain to you further how you can use some tips on being assertive. Well, the first most important thing to be able to be assertive is to show respect. You need to make sure that when you are being assertive, standing up for yourself, you are being respectful to not only yourself, but especially the person or people in front of you. And this can start with working on your confidence. You need to be confident enough to trust yourself enough and be assertive. That happens when you practice it. It sounds simple. Practice makes perfect, but practice also makes progress. You can always practice being assertive, learning to say no, using that assertive language in front of a mirror, or practice it with someone you're close to, someone you're comfortable with. Share it with your friend or family that I'm trying to be assertive. I'm trying to work on my confidence and I'm going to be practicing saying some things to you. It really works. And my favorite on learning to be assertive is focusing on using the I statement. Well, Wikipedia calls it the I message. It's a very simple tip, but a very powerful one. When you start your sentence with I instead of you, it instantly diffuses the situation. It reduces conflict and reduces defensiveness on the part of the other person. I'll give you an example. If you said, you should stop that, what will it do to the person in front of you? It will put that person on the defensive, will make them feel that you are attacking them, and immediately it will turn into like a conflict. However, if you use the I statement and said, instead, I would like it if you stopped that. Using the I message or the I statement, what does it do? It makes you take responsibility for that situation. It shows that you are taking into your hands what is going to happen in this situation. It does not allow the other person to go on the defensive because you have taken responsibility. So remember, the most important key to showing assertion is using the I statement. Start your sentences with I. I would like it if you stopped that. I would prefer if we did it in a certain way. Not, you need to stop that, you should not do it like this. Whether you are a subordinate or a superior, whether you are a leader, a manager, or an employee, using the I message works all through. The next step is do not get angry. Yes, it's very hard because the line between assertion and aggression is very thin. You can very easily jump over the minute you get angry. So you need to make sure that you work on your anger management. You need to set clear boundaries and protect them with confidence. Let me give you an example of a client that I had. Well, he was very clear that during his workday, he would not eat his lunch on his desk. It was a boundary he set for himself because he felt picking up his food, even though he got it from home, he would like to take his food, his lunch, and eat it in the cafeteria or outdoors. It helped him recharge and continue on a higher note for the rest of the day. He was very clear on his boundaries and made his superiors, colleagues, peers aware of it. If someone asked him for something to be done during lunchtime, unless it was absolutely pressing and had to be delivered that time in itself, he was very clear he would do it after lunch. Because he was so clear on his boundaries and protected them with confidence, it made his peers and his superiors also stick to those boundaries. His boss never asked him to do something during lunchtime, and it's understood that he would do it post-lunch. And finally, you need to trust your instincts. You know when you are in the right. You know when you're coming from a place of honesty and authenticity. That should be reason enough to stand up for yourself with assertiveness and be able to say the things that matter to you without feeling worried. Well, let's move on now to, as I said, I'm a journaling junkie. You know, the most important aspect to learning anything new is practicing it. So take a screenshot of this slide, which says, if you could say no to one person, who would that be and what would you say? Remember, journaling will help you more than thinking about it because the chaos and the combination of thoughts that are going on in your head will only get clarity when you put them down. So consider this your first step on your journey to learning to say no by journaling this sentence. I'm going to continue now. Yes, this is the best part of the presentation. I'm going to be sharing with you strategies on how to say no. I've come up with a two-pronged aspect of it, where it is mindset work and then taking action. The reason it's very important to do mindset work in addition to taking action is because when you're learning anything new or different in your life, it always begins with first convincing your brain that it's okay to make the change and that the change is not wrong. You can start on all the actions, but if you are not convinced that these actions are right or this change is required or important, the actions will be fruitless. It will be futile doing any steps if you're not convinced in your mind that it's important. It may feel different at first, but eventually it will become a part of you. And the key to changing your mindset or to convincing your mind or to taking these steps is by having a growth mindset. Let me explain to you further what growth mindset means. Well, having a growth mindset means that your skills, intelligence, and talents are malleable and can be changed with effort, perseverance, and practice. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, which basically means that you can become smarter, you can change, you can achieve whatever you want, because they believe that your brain is like a muscle which can be improved with extra effort and work on it. Having a fixed mindset, on the other hand, believes that your intelligence, skill, and talents are fixed. You are either smart or not. You are either good or bad. So in order to bring about any change in your life, it is very important to have a growth mindset. Let me further explain to you certain growth mindset versus fixed mindset statements. Statements on the left are fixed mindset statements, and those on the right are growth mindset statements. I'm going to quickly read through them. If you, instead of saying, I'm not good at this, try thinking, I'm awesome at this. What am I missing? I'm on the right track. I give up. Instead of that, say, I'll try something different. This is too hard. No, you can always say, this may take more time and effort. I can't make this any better. Well, I can improve. I'll keep trying. I just can't do it. I'm going to train my brain. Mistakes help me learn better. It's good enough. Is this my best work? And finally, plan A did not work. Thank goodness there are more alphabets. I hope it gives you a better idea of what having a growth mindset can do for you. So it's so important to first work on your mindset if you want to bring about any change in your life, especially a change big enough like learning to say no, learning to stand up for yourself, and achieving that work-life harmony. Let's get to the fun action part now. Once you've convinced yourself, your brain, that it's correct, important, and right to make this change, you can get to the part of taking those actions. So firstly, you need to get clear on what you really want. You cannot just say that I want to make a change. You have to be very clear on what is the change you want to do. How are you going to implement it? What is the end result or end goal that you're looking for? Then you make the decision that you will start saying no. It's not good enough to just convince your mind that you need to do this. You need to affirmatively tell yourself that I am going to start saying no from today. Make it like an announcement to yourself or to somebody you're close to, so it gives you that further reassurance that it's happening. Thirdly, write down all the possible negative consequences. Sometimes before we want to make a change, we have so many reasons that things will go wrong, the wrong consequences of when we make this change. However, when we put it down, we realize that even if things are going to go wrong, you can make them okay. It's not as bad as it seems. So it's important to list out all the negative consequences so you don't come up with new reasons or new excuses on why not to make this change, why not to say no. Seek support to process and clear fears and emotions. Talk to somebody you trust. Reach out to some professional. Speak to a coach. And finally, avoid guilt. Very often we feel that we may be doing something wrong if you're making a change, especially a big change in our life. Being able to say no or learning to say no is quite a big one. If it means standing up for yourself, and if you've never done it before, it's going to take a lot of work on your part, in addition to the guilt that you may be offending another, hurting another. So please avoid the guilt. And that brings me to the end of my webinar. However, before we leave, before we part ways, I want you to try this together with me right now in this moment. Let's try and visualize you saying no to somebody. In this very minute, if you had to say no to somebody, who would it be? Visualize it now and believe that you are doing the right thing. Thank you so much for joining me today. It has been an absolute pleasure. And if you would like to connect with me further, I'm available on all these social media networks. I'm available on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I also have a website which is called ruchiparik.com. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure. This is Coach Ruchi signing off.
Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Ruchi. Extremely interesting. I'd like to ask you a couple of questions, based on the presentation you just shared. It can be difficult, like you mentioned, for anyone to say no. But for many of us growing up in Asian cultures, it can be particularly harder to do so. So how can we do this in a way that doesn't clash with our cultural values?
Thank you for this question, Aparna. I'm very glad you asked this, especially for Asians like us. We have always been taught that if there is somebody in front of you who's older than you, and I think I even mentioned it in the presentation, you need to say yes. And that is also the same for somebody who's higher in the hierarchy. It could be your boss, your leader. You should never say no. But we need to understand the background of what the request is. We cannot, on the face of it, say yes or no without getting more information. We have never been taught to say no, but there is nothing wrong in getting more information from your superior, from someone in front of you who even may be an older person, and ask them the reasons that they are asking you for something which you do not agree with. Once you have the reasons in place, you can make an informed decision and then express the reasons yourself if you need to say no without offending another, with assertiveness and showing complete respect. As I stated, saying no does not have to be disrespectful. It should, and very importantly, needs to be said with complete respect and not dishonoring the person in front of you.
Thanks, Ruchi. I think respect is the key word here that we need to keep in mind as we say no. You have discussed in detail about how people can have the confidence to say no, but I'm curious, what advice would you give to our audience today on what they should do and how they can be more empathetic when someone says no to them?
Thank you for this question. Well, yes, I have spoken about saying no. But what happens when somebody says no to you? Well, that's a very tricky question. And again, my answer would be understand the background, understand where the person is coming from. Whether you are in a position of an employee or subordinate, or you're in a higher position especially if you're in a superior position, you're a leader, the manager, an executive, and you are being told no by your subordinate, it is extremely important to deal with this situation with respect and assertiveness. Again, you need to figure out the background. What is the reason that this person is coming from? What is his essence of saying no to you? Does he have a good enough reason to be able to say no? Is he able to back it with enough evidence that what he is saying is right and what you are saying is wrong? Especially in our cultures, like you spoke earlier, we don't usually ask for reasoning. We're just so offended when somebody says no to us that we hit a blank wall. Well, that needs a bit of a change. If your person in front of you is saying no to you, they are showing courage. They are being able to stand up for yourself. And that actually is a brilliant key, it's a talent. It's something that the person is showing, which they would use not only for themselves, but while standing up for their subordinates, for their peers, for their colleagues. And maybe the same person will be able to do it for you as well if you are their superior.
Thanks, Ruchi. I know there's a lot you have shared today. And, before we close, if you were to sum up everything that you've shared today with one key message or one key takeaway, what would that be?
I think my key takeaway today would be stand up for yourself. It is so important that if you come from a place of honesty, authenticity, you know you're right. Get that courage, build on that self-confidence, and stand up for yourself, stand up for those boundaries, and don't let another walk all over you because you did not have the courage, even though you knew you were right. Especially in our workplaces, it is so important to inculcate these aspects in our culture, in our workplaces. Just because somebody is in a superior position or somebody is not in a superior position does not mean they are not, allowed to stand up for themselves. Whatever you are, wherever you are in your hierarchy, stand up for yourself with honesty, truth, and authenticity, and you will be doing well.
Thank you. On behalf of Community Business, I would really like to thank you, Ruchi, for sharing your insights on this topic. If you are listening to this session live, Ruchi is available for the next 15 minutes to take questions via the online chat facility to the right of your screen. Please note your questions and Ruchi's responses will be visible to all who have joined the webinar. I would like to thank you all for joining us. This session will be available for download. So if you have really enjoyed it, please share it with all your colleagues and your peers. The next webinar in our Work-Life Harmony program begins at 4 p.m. Look forward to seeing you all join us there again. Thank you.